Hello, and welcome to the League of Women Voters of Dearborn Heights Candidate Forum for the May 3rd special general election for the office of 15th District State Representative, a partial term ending January 1st, 2023. The 15th District includes all but 3 precincts in the city of Dearborn. My name is Jennifer Oliver, and I am the president of the local league. This program is presented and produced as a public service by the League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan national organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government. The League never supports or opposes candidates or political parties. Membership is open to everyone aged 16 years or older. Tonight's forum is being conducted virtually through the Zoom platform, and a recording will be released in its entirety. For additional information on today's candidates, please visit the League's online voter guide at vote411.org or download a printable copy of the League's voter guide from our website, www.LWVDDH.org. The League of Women Voters wants every eligible voter to inform themselves and to vote in the May 3rd special general election. Although all local precincts will be open on election day, please contact the Dearborn City Clerk's office for an absentee ballot if you prefer that option. If you aren't sure whether or not you are registered to vote or whether your absentee ballot has been issued or recorded, please visit the Michigan Voter Information Center at mi.gov/vote. Now, I am delighted to introduce the moderator of tonight's forum and a member of our local league, Leslie Windless. Leslie?
Thank you, Jennifer. Hello. Today is Monday, April 4th, 2022, and we are recording this program in its entirety via the Zoom platform. As always, the League of Women Voters is not responsible for the views expressed by the candidates. The candidates have agreed to the following plan. The first candidate to speak will be determined randomly. Thereafter, the order will be rotated. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement and 1 minute to answer each question. We will end with each candidate having 1 minute to make a final statement. The league timekeeper is Colleen Kubeka, will give 15-minute warnings to cue the candidates to bring their answers to a close, and will raise a card that says stop to notify the candidates when their time expires. The questions were determined by a league committee convened for that purpose. Time will not allow for all questions we developed to be asked. If you have more questions, we encourage you to contact the candidates directly. Contact information is available online at vote411.org. The May 3rd special general election for the office of 15th District State Representative will determine which candidate will serve as 15th District State Representative for the partial term ending January 1, 2023. The candidates on the ballot will be Jeffrey D. Pepper, the Democratic candidate, and Ginger L. Shearer, the Republican candidate. The candidates have been asked to make a 2-minute opening statement, and we will begin with candidate Jeffrey Pepper.
Thank you, Leslie. So as Leslie indicated, my name is Jeffrey Pepper, and I am the Democrat candidate for the 15th District, which I call the Dearborn District, because this term that Ginger and I are competing for is an 8-month term by the time this election is conducted to complete the term vacated by Abdallah Hammoud when he became our mayor. It is the last time for at least a decade that the city of Dearborn will have its own state representative, because starting in January of this year, Dearborn is divided into 3 different districts. Each one will have a Dearborn component, and each one will have a component of other municipalities. So for example, the 15th district here will consist of all of Dearborn Heights and most of West Dearborn. And then the East Dearborn precincts are divided more or less equally and include the city of Detroit and some Melvindale. So what's going to happen in the future is that the city of Dearborn will have 3 state representatives, but each district will have Dearborn as a minority in terms of the voting population. So I'm running at this very important time to make sure that Dearborn gets its due. We have lost, Lansing is awash with all manner of excess funds because of our economic recovery. And right now, Dearborn's voice is silent. And we need somebody to get in there and make sure that Dearborn gets its fair share and apportionment of the money that's available. I have, since the election, been doing some due diligence on this. I've talked with the superintendent of schools. I've spoken with Mayor Abdallah Hammoud. I've communicated with Russ Calabaluna, the president of Henry Ford Community College, and each of them have advised me of what their particular needs might be in terms of budgetary requirements. And so with that said, you'll see my eyes go off. I'm following the camera or the timekeeper, and my time is up, and I stop my comments right now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So next we will move on to candidate Ginger Shearer.
Hello, my name is Ginger L. Shearer, and I'm delighted to be here tonight. I want to thank the League of Women Voters again for hosting the forum and welcoming me back. I'm excited about this unique opportunity and a special election. I'm running for state representative for District 15 and would like to ask the voters to consider me for the May 3rd election, as well as the August primary and November election coming up later this year. Let me tell you about myself. I grew up in Flat Rock. I obtained a nursing assistant certification through the state of Michigan. As a young woman, I moved to Dearborn in '98. It has been my home ever since. I worked in Eastern Market for 30 years. I did not choose the nursing program that I went through. But in 2021, I retired, and this has given me an opportunity to represent Dearborn and working moms everywhere and in our state capital. I'm running because I want all citizens of the district to have the same opportunity to succeed and the freedom to make our own choices and to be fearless in expressing our views. I will represent each citizen in Dearborn with honesty, integrity, and strong values. In Dearborn, we must continue to embrace change, progressive thinking, and policies that are inclusive to everyone. I will work hard. I will work hand in hand with all citizens and community partners to make Lansing work for the people. I will fight to bring Lansing dollars to our education system. I will fight to make sure it goes directly to our schools and fight against wasteful and unproven social programs. We must build a bright future for our children. I will fight to bring money from Lansing that will go directly to our Dearborn community. Our citizens deserve improvements in infrastructure. Our citizens deserve dry basements, lower taxes, clean parks, and safe neighborhoods. I will advocate for Dearborn. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Now we will begin with the questions. Again, all the candidates, well, both of the candidates in this forum will be given 1 minute to answer each question. We will begin with candidate Shearer for the question part of this. And question 1 is, given the limited duration of this partial term, how have you prepared for this office? And what are your priorities for the current legislative session?
Repeat that for me, please. I apologize.
Sure. Given the limited duration of this partial term, how have you prepared for this office? And what are your priorities for the current legislative session?
That's a really great question. I've prepared for it. I've been studying this. I've talked to several people in the community. I've gone through, many Q&As with different people. And my hope is to get the Lansing dollars that our community needs. That is the most important thing right now. We don't have anyone representing us, and we need to get those Lansing dollars that can go directly into our community and not into, as I mentioned before, the social and unproven programs that are wasteful. So that's my hope, is to bring the Lansing dollars that can go directly to our education, our infrastructure, to our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we will move to candidate Pepper with the exact same question, which was, given the limited duration of this partial term, how have you prepared for this office? And what are your priorities for the current legislative session?
Well, my life has been a preparation for this particular job. I am a lawyer. I have advocated for thousands of clients. I read the law. I am required on very short notice to understand the law, and therefore I feel I could have a valuable role in creating the law. More recently, I've become a mediator in terms of resolving civil disputes. I bring people together. It is what I do every day. So I have the skill set to go to Lansing and hopefully work with the other side and bring people together for common solutions for the common good. In the short term, what I've done, I indicated in my opening statement, I have been dealing with the leaders, the local leaders, and finding out what their needs are. These months when we get up there, or I get up there, hopefully, will be months when we're talking about the budget. So we need to make sure that Dearborn is represented in those budget considerations, and that we get our just due, and we need to restore constituent services which have been missing.
Thank you so much, Candidate Pepper. So for question 2, we will be starting with Candidate Pepper and then moving to Candidate Shearer. So question 2 is, how would you address local environmental issues such as flooding, air quality, public transportation, and green infrastructure?
Okay, do I get 1 minute for each of those? I'm going to say basically it is about budgetary considerations. It is always going to be about where resources go. Are we going to invest in infrastructure? Absolutely, we need to do that. This is like a given. Of course we need to invest in infrastructure, roads, broadband, flooding here in Dearborn. How we do that, that's up to engineers. I've talked to engineers about it. I think I have an idea. We need to get money for that. And that's certainly one of the objectives that I will have. As far as public transportation, I'm very much in favor of more mass transit, so to speak. I have been since I wrote a thesis about that when I was in college in 1974. As far as, I forget what the other aspect of your question was, but I will say that there's a lot to be done. Most of it is money, most of it is prioritizing. There are some non-money issues that we'll want to address when I get there. I want to talk about guns. I'd be interested in knowing what social programs are.
Stop that time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candidate Pepper. Now we are moving to Candidate Shearer with the same question, and I will read it again for you, which is, how would you address local environmental issues such as flooding, air quality, public transportation, and green infrastructure?
Well, protecting the Great Lakes and all Michigan water systems must continue to be one of the top priorities in state government. I will focus on supporting improvements in the south end of Dearborn to clean up air, noise, traffic-related pollution. We must embrace renewable and carbon neutral energy. We need to fight for economic incentives that will help manufacturers like Ford Motor Company transition to alternative fuel sources for vehicles. Michigan's natural resources and state parks must be protected for our families and our future. I will fight for incentives to bring electric vehicle manufacturer suppliers and technology to Dearborn to secure our future and protect and increase jobs. But again, it's all based on money. We have to fight for those dollars from Lansing to come directly to our community and not go to the wasteful programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candidate Shearer. So for question 3, we are going to begin with Candidate Shearer and then move to Candidate Pepper. And the question is, are there any citizen-initiated petitions that you are supporting or opposing, such as Promote the Vote 2022, or Secure My Vote, which is cleverly spelled MI, just for the record? And if so, please explain. Would you like me to repeat it?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Are there any citizen-initiated petitions that you are supporting or opposing, such as Promote the Vote 2022 or Secure My Vote? If so, please explain.
Well, I'm not familiar with these. These have not brought forth to me directly, but regarding the election or, the whole process, we need to create policies that will increase voter awareness, turnout, and accessibility. We need more funding at local level to continuously improve the election process. Whatever the Dearborn citizens want to focus on, I will put all my efforts forth into focusing on that. So if that's something that's one of their top priorities, I will fight for dollars, incentives from Lansing to go to this community. Again, we keep talking about all the money coming from Lansing. That's what we're fighting for everything. For everything in this city, we need dollars that go directly to our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, candidate
Okay,
Shearer.
I know the question and I can answer the question. You don't have to repeat it for me.
Okay.
As far as promote the vote is concerned, I am 100% behind the policies behind promote the vote. This is obviously an offshoot of voters not politicians, and I believe it's taking it a step further, and I believe it opens up avenues for people to vote, and that's an important thing. I'm not certain when it happened that politicians actually were actively trying to suppress the vote, and that is what Secure My Vote does. I'm completely opposed to Secure My Vote. It is performance art as far as I'm concerned, responding to the outrageous Trump claims that somehow this election was stolen despite multiple judicial rulings that it was not, despite audit after audit after audit after audit. So this is just something that the Republicans have concocted to suppress the vote here in Michigan. Fortunately, it's not nearly as breathtaking as that in Georgia or Texas or some of the other southern state jurisdictions.
Okay, thank you for that. So our next question is going to start with candidate Pepper for his response, and then move to candidate Shearer. And the question is, how can the legislator protect election administrators and poll workers from intimidation and threats of violence?
Well, number one, certainly weapons should be banned. Guns should be banned from polling sites. Secondly, I know what they're talking about because I've been there. I've been a poll worker for decades. And what happened was the Republicans were for a long time banned from doing it because their representatives there were bullies. Now that's been lifted and now they're back at it again. Now, how can we protect them? We certainly have to immunize them from any liability. We have to put in strict rules about what the role of a poll watcher is, which means we must give election supervisors authority to deal with overreaching on that part. I've seen it. I was at the TCF Center this last election, and I saw how certain Republicans were overstepping their bounds as poll watchers and demanding that poll workers do things that was not within their role. So election supervisors need to have the power to deal with that type of interruption.
Okay, thank you for your response. Candidate Shearer, would you like me to repeat that question?
No, I think I can answer it. It's the same that I just answered. We need to create policies that will increase voter awareness, turnout, and accessibility. We need more funding. The funding will help with training and safety. We need to continuously improve the election process in every area, including that of safety for the workers. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your response. So this next question will start with candidate Shearer and move to candidate Pepper. And the question is, the Citizens United decision changed the face and the cost of political elections. What is your position on issues of campaign finance reform, such as transparency and the public financing of elections?
I believe that campaign financing, I think each individual should be able to run for an election. I don't think that it should be based on your campaign fundraising abilities. I think it should be accessible to everyone. It shouldn't be based on your ability to raise campaign funds. It should be based on your ability to do the job right. Thank you.
So here's what I think about Citizens United. Citizens United was an abhorrent decision, and right in line with the Shelby County decision, in which southern states were relieved of election supervision. I believe it's a terrible decision, but here's my concern about it. It was a constitutionally based decision where the Supreme Court declared that dark money was okay to flow into campaigns as a matter of First Amendment freedom of speech. It's a very concerning decision, and I think we've seen what the negative impacts of it are. We have millions, if not billions of dollars, unknown sources flowing into campaigns, and that's just a sham because we don't know who those special interests are who are influencing candidates, and it's awful. In Michigan, I would like to adopt rules that restrict the impact of Citizens United. I have my concerns that they would be struck down for being unconstitutional given the basis for it in the first place, but we need to try. We need to stop the flow of Start.
Stop that time.
Thank you for that, Candidate Pepper. We're going to move to the next question. We're going to start with Candidate Pepper and move to Candidate Shearer. The question is, how would you work toward the equitable funding of schools in Michigan? And what is your position on the use of public funding to support charter and private schools?
Okay, so I oppose, that's another petition initiative that I oppose that's out there, and that is the petition initiative for vouchers that would allow parents who decide to send their kids to private schools to be taking essentially a tax deduction for it. I'm totally opposed to that. That dries up funds for public schools, and I think that's unfortunate. As far as what the most equitable funding for students would be, I mean, look, it is a per pupil basis. I mean, it seems on the surface of it to be reasonably fair. I'm going to say that we need to stop rating of our school aid fund because we know that that typically, almost like Social Security, gets picked from if the state needs money. I'd want to stop that so we have the funds available for our public education. But I'm opposed to voucher style programs to support private schools because that money belongs to the taxpayers. Shared policy, shared programs, I believe in.
Stop that time.
Thank you so much. And we're going to move to Candidate Shearer. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. How would you work toward the equitable funding of schools in Michigan? And what is your position on the use of public funding to support charter and private schools?
Public funding for education, K through 12, should be the highest priority in our state's budget. All children, especially those with disabilities, must have an opportunity in the education system to achieve their goals. I will fight to expand programs, reduce classroom sizes, and provide educators with required resources and technology, security, and salaries needed to succeed. I think that's the most important. I'm going to go back to the funding from Lansing. We need that money for these children. They're our most important part of our budget. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candidate Shearer. We're moving to our next question, which will start with Candidate Shearer and move to Candidate Pepper. The question is, how should Michigan meet long-term revenue needs to handle funding for K-12, higher education, roads and transportation, public health, prisons, local government revenue sharing, and other state expenses?
Wow, 1 minute. Okay. Well, obviously it's budgetary and I don't have all those figures in front of me, but if I am elected, we will definitely work it out. Again, I talked about the education being one of the most important and infrastructure. I think those two are the most important and on the forefront right now. There are several others, but we need the dollars from Lansing. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Candidate Shearer. Candidate Pepper, would you like me to reread the question?
In this instance, because it was so long, yes.
Will do. So how should Michigan meet long-term revenue needs to handle funding for K-12 and higher education, roads and transportation, public health, prisons, local government revenue sharing, and other state expenses?
All right, here's what we ought to not do, and that is reduce the personal income tax rate as is currently proposed by the Republican majority, nor should we reduce the corporate tax rate. We have a one-time infusion of money, I believe right now, 15 billion, I think, in ARPA funds that remains unspent, about 5 billion in our surplus in our budget. Certainly, we should A, set aside money for a rainy day, B, each one of these issues requires such attention, like the prison population should be reduced. Obviously, the best way of doing that is to reduce crime, but another way of doing it is to not incarcerate people for minor offenses. I believe that we should have a progressive income tax in the state. I don't want to reduce it. I think it should be progressive, and that would increase revenue. I don't think it would be a bad thing to take a look at allowing local areas to establish their own sales tax rates. I'm not in favor of that necessarily.
Stop that time.
Thank you so much, Candidate Pepper. We are moving to our next question, which will start with Candidate Pepper and move to Candidate Shearer. It is a shorter question. Give you guys a little bit of break on trying to remember on those. So given the recent legal challenges to Roe v. Wade, what state legislation would you support regarding reproductive rights?
All right. Well, first of all, I would move to repeal the legislation that was passed in the last couple of years, anticipating that our Supreme Court was going to gut Roe versus Wade, putting in restrictions on reproductive rights. I would seek to overturn or revoke that legislation. Secondly, let's be clear, I think actually Ginger and I may agree on this subject matter because we talked about it. And I believe that that medical decisions should be left up to the patient and the physician. And I believe that actually choice and actually I'll use the word abortion should be, as Bill Clinton put it, legal, safe, and rare.
Thank you so much. We're moving to you, Candidate Shearer. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, yes, Jeff and I did discuss this, and he said, well, what was your answer? It should be left between a woman and her physician, which he repeated that same thing. So yes, it should be left between a woman and her physician. It's a very private matter. I don't think that abortion should be used as birth control, but I do think women should have the right to choose about their own bodies. I'm a woman. I definitely want to have the rights over my own reproductive system. It's a private matter. It should be left between a woman and her physician. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candidate Shearer. We're moving to our next question, and we're getting through this fast. I appreciate you guys for sticking in there. We're going to start with Candidate Shearer, and we're going to move to Candidate Pepper for this question. So what measures would you take to help alleviate gun violence in Michigan, especially given the past violence at the Capitol and in schools?
Well, law enforcement at local level needs funding to remove illegal weapons from criminals that are not eligible to possess guns. Training, education, and technology and other resources need to be available to keep illegal weapons and guns out of our neighborhoods. So again, it goes back to that funding from Lansing. We need money from Lansing to make this happen. Thank you.
I think I would be a little more aggressive on this. I have several issues with gun ownership. I certainly, the Second Amendment's there. It can be argued whether or not the breadth of it is wise as announced by the Supreme Court, but it is what it is. States do have some authority to regulate guns, and here's what I would do here in Michigan. I would ban open carry of any assault weapons. I think it's crazy somebody can walk into my Kroger store with an AR-15 and a bandolier around his waist, and that's just perfectly fine. I don't think so, not in a civilized society. Secondly, I would require that there be education courses before people can purchase pistols or long arms. I've taken these education courses because I've gone through this, and I think everyone needs to be educated. I believe in offering gun safety courses actually through high schools. It used to happen. It doesn't anymore. I've got many more restrictions.
Stop that time.
Thank you so much. We're moving to our next question. We will be starting with Candidate Pepper and then moving to Candidate Shearer. The question is, if elected to the state legislature, would you be willing to declare your financial interest in writing annually and announce conflicts of interest before you vote? Why or why not?
Okay, so sure, I think there should be full disclosure of candidates' finances and sources of financing. I certainly believe that. I think it probably a little bit problematic to disclose on every single vote potential financial conflicts of interest. I mean, heck, if there's a proposal that helps dentists in some fashion and my brother is a dentist, I mean, do I have to disclose that? I mean, pet euthanasia. I have a dog. Should I have to dispose conflicts of interest there? I think annual reporting, yes. And in cases of obvious conflicts, I think, yeah, leave it up to your representative to disclose it because it's the responsible thing to do.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to move to you, candidate Shearer. Would you like me to repeat that question?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. If elected to the state legislature, would you be willing to declare your financial interest in writing annually and announce any conflicts of interest before you vote? Why or why not?
Yes, I would provide my income. I have no problem with that. Why? Because I have nothing to hide. That's it. Yes, I would be more than happy to provide any information necessary. And if there were any conflicts of interest, I would definitely state that.
Thank you so much. Okay, our next question has a lot going on. So
Oh, no.
I think what I'm going to do is read the question in its entirety, and then I'm going to go back through the 4 separate questions and ask them individually. I think it'll be a little bit easier for you to follow the questions if I do it that way. Okay.
You go first, right?
Yes, so I'm going to start with candidate Shearer first, and then I'm going to move to candidate Pepper. This was a good one for you to get to sit out on, Mr. Pepper. So the questions are, what policies do you support regarding Michigan voters' rights and access? Specifically, A, do you support mailing applications or ballots to all eligible voters? B, do you support paid postage for return absentee ballots? C, what about a requirement for 24-hour camera monitored drop boxes based on population and geography? D, when voting in person, do you support the current photo ID laws? Whew. So then I'm going to go back, I'll read it, and then I'll go to A, and I'll let you answer that. Then I'll go to B, and we can continue so on.
Okay.
So what policies do you support regarding Michigan voters' rights and access? Specifically, A, do you support mailing applications or ballots to all eligible voters?
Yes, I do support it. I do support the government's policies. So yes.
B, do you support paid postage for return absentee ballots?
Yes.
C, what about a requirement for 24-hour camera monitored drop box based on population and geography?
I would say yes for a camera, but I'm not sure why it would be based on geography or anything else. Just be yes, we should have it.
Thank you. And the last one was D. When voting in person, do you support the current photo ID laws?
Yes.
Thank you. Candidate Pepper, we're going to move to you. Would you like me to reread the entire question, or would you like me to go? No. Okay.
No,
so
I got it. All right, and I'm gonna shorten my answers to yes, 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 and yes. All right. So what that means is that I support mail-in applications and I would say of actual ballots, but I see there's an argument for applications for those. Yes, for paid postage. I happen to think that actually the way of making that better for the municipalities who have to bear that cost is to have the United States government have the Postal Service waive postage fees for election voting materials. The 24-hour, I guess, surveillance of drop-off, I don't think that's necessary. Those boxes are secure, but sure, I'd support it. And I get the population things. You don't want it, 1,000 of those for 1,000 people. You might, X for every number of people. And then, yes, as far as photo ID, I do support the current rule, which is amplified by the affidavit that a person can sign if he doesn't have or she doesn't have a photo ID.
And stop at time.
Thank you so much, Candidate Pepper and Candidate Shearer. I know that one was a four-parter, so a little bit difficult to follow. So our next question is going to start with candidate Pepper and then move to candidate Shearer. That question is, would you support legislation allowing undocumented residents to obtain state driver's license and ID cards? Why or why not?
Yes. Why? Well, first of all, we have a huge number of DACA people here who should be able to get driver's license and be able to work and get social security numbers and all of that. Absolutely. Secondly, other undocumented aliens who may not be part of DACA, but who are here, certainly issuing driver's license or other photos ID give the government an opportunity to at least know where these undocumented immigrants are. My guess is a whole bunch of them wouldn't seek to have a driver's license for exactly that reason, but I think it would be a good thing to do. Drivers have to have insurance, so if there's an accident, then there's insurance theoretically to cover it, and also an address to which a responsible party could be found. So yeah, I'm fully in favor of driver's licenses for everyone who knows how to drive a car properly.
Thank you. Next, we're going to ask that same question to you, candidate Shearer, which is, would you support legislation allowing undocumented residents to obtain state driver's license and ID cards? Why or why not?
You asked this question last time I was on, and I really hadn't studied it, but I thought about it over and over again since the last interview. And my answer at the time was no. Off the top of my head, no, I would not support it. And I have many reasons. One reason would be if they did have an accident, who's to say if they hurt someone or, God forbid, killed someone, they could flee the country. That's one thing. And there are multiple other reasons. So I still stand by my answer, no, I do not agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Shearer. So our next question is going to start with candidate Shearer and move to candidate Pepper. That question is, please explain where you see an opportunity for legislators of all political parties to find common ground on very serious issues facing our state.
Well, there are many serious issues facing our state. One big one is health issues. Lansing must work for all of us. And my priorities are wide ranging. We need to make sure our kids and seniors have a healthy future. This means implementing legislation for lowering drug costs and addressing head-on the maternal mortality crisis that women in Michigan face. Women of color are dying during childbirth at third world country rates. We need to address many things, but I think drug costs and health are extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Shearer. We are moving to candidate Pepper. Please explain. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I think there are plenty of opportunities for Democrats and Republicans to reach across the aisle. As a matter of fact, since the primary, and I do not presume I'm going to win this race, I've got a formidable opponent here, but I thought, if I do win, I do want to hit the ground running. And I've been up to Lansing and I've talked to people. And one thing I heard I thought, well, yeah, that's probably true from our state senator was that, hey, when there's a lot of money in Lansing, it's amazing how well people get along. And so I thought, sure, because there's something to be carved out for everyone. But there are a whole bunch of issues that are not partisan, like take public health, for example. Okay, when it comes to masks, all of a sudden that's a hijacked political issue. But how about mental health? Every time there's a gun episode, we got to pay attention to mental health. Well, of course we do, because our mental health facilities were gutted back in the early 90s. By an administration that didn't think it was very important and have not been restored. We need to restore mental health services.
That's time.
Thank you. Our next question is a two-part question. We know we're famous for the long question, so bear with me. I'll repeat it if you need me to. We are going to start with candidate Pepper and then move to candidate Shearer on this one. The question is, what actions or policies do you support to protect Michigan's water, air, and land for current and future generations? The second part of that question is, can you please address specific issues such as Pipeline 5, lead, or other contaminants in Michigan's drinking water?
That was only 2 questions? Okay, here's what I have to say about the pipeline. I am not certain what my position is on it, because if you ask me on Tuesday, I'm opposed to it. If you ask me on Thursday, I'm in favor of it. It is a difficult issue for me to actually decide for myself, and I have not done the required due diligence for me to come up with a firm position on it. As far as the Great Lakes are concerned, and our aquifer and our inland lakes and our rivers, we have a reasonably robust department of the state of Michigan, the name of which I can't think of right at this moment, but it's reasonably robust, and they have good authority. Our membership in the Great Lakes Compact is important and should be supported financially. And then we have our compact with Canada and other countries. We just need to be on top of that. That sounds kind of weak, but that's exactly what we need to protect.
Thank you so much, Candidate Pepper. Candidate Shearer, given the length of the question, I'm just going to go ahead and reread it. So what actions or policies do you support to protect Michigan's water, air, land for the current and future generations? Also, could you please address specific issues such as Pipeline 5, lead, and other contaminants in Michigan's drinking water?
Well, protecting the Great Lakes, I said this earlier, and all of Michigan's water systems must continue to be one of our top priorities in state government. Michigan's natural resources and state parks must be protected for our families and the future. As far as the pipeline and contaminants, infrastructure all over, funding must be delivered to Dearborn and many other communities. And the necessary improvements for our city's aging sewer system is a top priority for our community. So, increasing the capacity of the sewer system, improving our infrastructure, that's what I'm going to focus on, because that's what state representative's position would be, is focusing on the Dearborn citizens and what we need in our community. Again, it's that money, that Lansing dollars coming to our community to make all of these improvements.
Stop that time.
Thank you so much, Candidate Shearer. This is our last question. After this question, we'll move into your closing statement. Thank you for your patience. We do have another question, but it's a little lengthy, so I'm going to read it. Many are interested in increasing rapid, clean, safe, and efficient mass transportation options in Michigan. What would you do to boost state support for public transportation?
Fight for the dollars, improve infrastructure, improve our roads, highways, bridges. We need all of this. And again, it goes back to the money from Lansing. I would fight for dollars from Lansing to improve all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Shearer. Candidate Pepper, that will be the same question.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you need to repeat it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So here's, back in the day, before I was even born, we used to have a thing called the Interurban that went from Dearborn downtown Detroit. It was an electric thing that went down Michigan Avenue, took you downtown Detroit, and then, oh well, we got all into internal combustion engines. And we eliminated a means of public transportation that was energy efficient. We need to get back to that. We don't need to have, and we're doing it to some degree, our buses that travel along these lines are somewhat environmentally friendly. They're moving to that. Then I think we should move to electric vehicles for our mass transportation here. We're not going to do a subway system here. I mean, that ship has sailed here. So we're going to be surface. And so let's make them environmentally friendly and efficient and usable, because people don't use them. I see these buses going by on Michigan Avenue. They're empty. So, we need to make sure that people want to use mass transit and find it to be friendly.
Stop that time.
Thank you, Candidate Pepper. It is now time for the candidates to make 1-minute closing statements. And we will begin with Candidate Pepper.
Okay, well, given that we have ended this 23 minutes earlier, I hope I can spend half of my time making this closing statement. But here's what I have to say. I've spent my life preparing for this moment, and I believe I can deliver for the people of the city of Dearborn. I'm happy to have an opponent like Ginger who agrees with me, as we can see here, on many of the major important issues. This is really refreshing. It's not as much fun that she's not a Trumper, because then I could have fun beating up on her, but she is actually a fine representative of the Republican Party that I used to know. And so I am going to deal with the Republican Party that's up there right now. And most of them that I have met are fine people. And there are very few rabble rousers, and I can reach across the aisle and shake their hands. And I can give the guy from Ishmael a parking lot if he can give me a splash pad. And that's what it's all about. I can do that.
Thank you, Candidate Pepper. We are going to move on to Candidate Shearer.
Okay, I am Ginger L. Shearer. I am honest, hardworking single mother who will fight to lower property taxes, increase resources for our schools, increase funding for our police and fire departments, veterans, and seniors. I would like to ask the voters to consider me as their candidate for the May 3rd election, as well as the August primary and November elections coming up later this year. I will fight. I will represent you and your family with honesty, integrity, and strong values. So please, when you get out and cast your ballot, I ask that you vote for me, Ginger L. Shearer, for your state representative. Thank you to everyone for your time and consideration. And I want to thank all of my supporters and citizens of Dearborn. I'm grateful and honored to be the Republican candidate for District 15. I will put all my efforts and fight for the issues that matter most to the voters in Dearborn. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Shearer. Well, on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Dearborn, Dearborn Heights, and the communities we serve, we want to thank the candidates for participating in this forum. We appreciate the commitment it takes to run for office, and we would like to thank you for seeking to serve. To the voters, please remember to vote. The polls will be open Tuesday, May 3rd from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Absentee ballots are available from the city clerk's office for any reason. In-person voting in the clerk's office has already begun. It is possible to visit the clerk's office during business hours to request an absentee ballot. Vote it in the office and turn it in, all in one visit. For more information on this, please visit vote411.org and Michigan, or my apologies, mi.gov/vote. This forum has now ended. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.